Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third lecture of the Global Seminar Series on Citizenship Stripping, hosted by the Institute on Statelessness and Inclusion, or ISI for short. My name is Kaya Vlieks, and I'm Research and Education Officer with the Institute, and I also coordinate the Year of Action Against Citizenship Stripping that has been initiated by the Institute and other partners. The online global seminar series on citizenship stripping are part of the ongoing Year of Action Against Citizenship Stripping. This initiative was started because in recent years, citizenship has again been threatened in ways that we've not seen for a long time because of the growth of the security state, increasing populism, xenophobia, racism, and we see states instrumentalize nationality and treat it as a privilege that can be taken away or as a punishment, which results in members of minority communities, human rights defenders, dissidents, and suspected terrorists being targeted with nationality deprivation measures. The global seminar series on citizenship stripping aim to unpack and understand the background of and the problems around citizenship stripping, presenting a different perspective by key experts on the issue.
الندوة الدولية للتجريد من الجنسية الهدف منه هو معرفة المشاكل التي تقف خلف هذا الأمر بالإضافة إلى أوجه النظر المختلفة. الندوة الدولية للتجريد من الجنسية الهدف منه هو معرفة المشاكل التي تقف خلف هذا الأمر بالإضافة إلى أوجه النظر المختلفة. الندوة الدولية للتجريد من الجنسية الهدف منه هو معرفة المشاكل التي تقف خلف هذا الأمر بالإضافة إلى أوجه النظر المختلفة. الندوة الدولية للتجريد من الجنسية الهدف منه هو معرفة المشاكل التي عفواً خلف هذا الأمر بالإضافة إلى أوجه النظر المختلفة. عفواً ممكن مساعدة؟ عفواً عفواً ممكن مساعدة؟ عفواً عفواً ممكن مساعدة؟
So this seminar lasts 1 hour, and I'm going to try and stick to time. And after the lecture, there will be time for questions and for discussion. And all participants can use the Q&A function in Zoom to ask any questions that you may have or comments that you would like to share. Mr. Faris, thank you so much again for joining us today, and the floor is yours for the presentation.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. At the beginning, I'd like to really thank ISI for providing me this opportunity to discuss with the audience and all whoever is watching this events, the issue of arbitrary revocation of nationality in Bahrain. At the beginning, important for me to indicate that it is really similar effects of statelessness, but in my evaluation, revocation of nationality could be more harmful than even if you are born with statelessness. Why? Because you already, at the beginning from your birth, you practice your basic right as a citizens and you grow up with it, but so sudden is being taken away. And it is more harmful if that's been taken away without without a prior notice or without giving legitimate reasons. And here would make you to be so much in pain. For sure, it's going to be more painful if you're going to be away from your country or you are being forcibly deported from your country after they take away your nationality and you become stateless. And today, through this presentation, I try to elaborate a little bit on the different aspect of this case and to give a very close and an insight view of how this condition is going on in Bahrain and how it is really a vital and a very a grave type of the human rights violation. So we can start here. Next slide, please. Yeah. As we indicated that this is going to be part of the series of the lectures focusing on the issue of the citizenship stripping through a sequence of lectures organized by ISI. So thankful to them. Next, please. So international legal framework, as we know, there are two basic one, which all the time we refer to in the international conventions when we discuss about the issues of the statelessness, the 1954 convention relating to the status of the stateless persons, and second one, 1961, on the reduction of the statelessness. So they are, I can say they are bases of the legal frame internationally, which tackling the issue of the statelessness, and it's been so clearly referred to whenever we want to indicate to the countries who are abusing their citizens or they are keeping a stateless citizen as a stateless, we are referring them to these two conventions. Next, please. Now, to give a clear indication of how this citizenship revocations happened in Bahrain, so our case study going to be today in this presentation about this revocation of nationality in Bahrain. Next. If we start with the nationality rights in Bahrain in constitution, there are a clear indication that it is a basic right. A person inherently enjoying his Bahraini nationality cannot be stripped of his nationality except in case of treason and such other cases as prescribed by law. This is being written in the constitution of Bahrain, either 1973 or the current constitution 2002. But in practice, we can see now this basic article is not being considered through the act and the way it's being implemented. So they are override this basic right, which is already clear in the Bahraini constitution. Next slide. Unfortunately, after the 2011 and starting revocation of nationality of Bahrainis, which started by a revocation of 31 citizens, and I was one of them in November, exactly in 7th November 2012, and that was through a Ministry of Interior order. Bahrain faced with a lot of condemnation internationally during that time, and everyone was questioning this Ministry of Interior order and what is the basis of it and why it's been happened without any type of the protection of the law or any implementation of the law, which made the authorities in Bahrain to be embarrassed. That couldn't be answered because even through the local legislations, it should be through a decree by the king, or a certain types of the citizenship law or any other laws can give authorities such power to revoke the nationality, even though I believe that it is never ever should be occurred. Never ever a revocation of nationality should be part of any political tools or any type of the penal code. But in that case, it made the authorities to make some amendments toward the citizenship law, which occurred in 2014. So this Article 10, some amendment is being made to give further rights to the authorities to revoke nationality and quote unquote to justify the reasons why they are being allowed to revoke the nationality. So here we can see that some amendments is being part of that road, which is, you can see it here. Next one, please. And 2013 amendments to the anti-terrorism law. That law has been passed in 2005, and such amendment is being made to it that to whoever is perpetrators of the dangerous terror crimes can have their citizenship revoked. Keeping in mind that we cannot find in Bahrain an independent judicial system that we can believe that they will consider the cases is fake or the cases is genuine. In the meanwhile, we could see so many cases that en route and in nature, there are political cases, but just to give justification to the authority to use a high ceiling of the penal code towards or revocation of nationality and even to the executions and so on, they've been accused that they being acted as a terrorist or there have been a terror act. So deliberately, this anti-terrorism law is being modified or amended that to give further power to the judiciary, whoever is being charged, quote unquote, a terrorist act, even if they been involved in burning a tire, for example, in the street, or even they had some type of the assembly somewhere, or even they had some type of the freedom of speech somewhere because they criticized the government easily, they could be charged with this law, and then the sequence of it, revocation of nationality. And that where we could see that the number of those who lost their nationality and their nationality has been revoked since 2012 till 2019, it was dramatically increasing, where we can see it later on. Next, please. Here, I like to display a very, very short video from those whose nationality has been revoked to see how they say and how they received this decision by Minister of Interior, and some comments on that one. Can you display it?
The Bahraini regime has found a new tool, a new way of diluting opposition. It revokes citizenships. It makes Bahrainis stateless. Without a passport, a person loses every right a human being is entitled to. They cannot work, they cannot freely access education or medical care or legal support. Nor can they have a bank account, which means they can't buy or sell property and many other things. But they also can't leave Bahrain.
I was sleeping midnight. They announced it in the TV, Bahrain TV.
It was around 2 p.m. I was just having lunch with my family.
My kids, they woke me up and they said, "Dad, we have now bad news for you. They announced that they drop you Bahraini citizens." I said, "Okay, fine. That's all." He said, "That's all." I said, "Okay, bye, I'll sleep."
And I received a message through social media, says there is a list published, list of 72 Bahrainis whose citizenship is revoked. And my name was the third name.
I was out in Turkey and Thailand. I came back from there. I was on vacation. After 30 or 40 days, they put my name on the list. for no case.
I found my name with a group that they took their passports. When I ask, they say we don't know, but you are one of them.
One morning in 2012, with no prior warning, the Bahraini government published a list of 31 people whose citizenship was revoked. This has happened twice more since, once for 72 people and once for 56 people. Now a total of 159 Bahrainis are stateless. These decisions were made without due process. Legally speaking, not one of these people is Bahraini anymore. Most of them belong to the Shia majority.
If you lose your citizenship, it means you are dead. You can do nothing completely.
Anybody who's deprived of their citizenship has had taken away the most fundamental right of all. He's a non-person.
Bear in mind, if somebody loses his citizenship, he can't study here, he can't work, his family can't get health care. It means that he should either leave Bahrain or live here with a very difficult situation where it's difficult to get a job or education or even treated in a public hospital.
Although the
Can you go back to the slides? Thank you. Yeah, I think the video will summarize what and how the decision is being taken. It is not through a court, and I was part of it, and even without any justification is being given. And the sequence out of it, I think they summarize it so clearly, where we are elaborating on it in this event today. Next one, please. So clearly they indicated and here that the consequences of his statelessness or being your nationality has been revoked. Here that we can indicate some cases which was clearly mentioned that it is totally as a social death. It is like you are not existing anymore. And as I said beginning of my speech today, that here the most harmful part of it, because you already have at least some your basic rights, by sudden you are losing it without any justification. Next, please. So here the effects of the revocation of decision, giving some example of it. This type of the newborn child from a nationality, so they will no longer be a citizen. All those newborn childs from those whose nationality has been revoked, it became stateless right away. And we have so many cases in Bahrain, and especially those who are abroad, they face this problem so badly that new generation now started to become stateless due to revocation of nationality of their parents or their father. The barrier of the rights to work, for sure, because you don't have any legal residency in the country, so you don't have right to work, and your work will not be permitted at all due to lack of any documentation, legal documentation from your side. Barrier of use of many services previously been available, and even your bank account, you don't have an access to it. You cannot open a new bank account. Even your pension, you cannot deal with it. Your pension will be stopped, and even your money cannot be withdrawn. Your own property, even if you have a property, you can deal with it. You cannot sell it. You cannot buy new property. Barrier of traveling, it was so clear. If you're going to be in the country, you will not be allowed to travel, but later on they will deport you forcibly with the accusation that you're no longer a citizen and you don't have legal residency in the country. Next. And the total damage of the citizenship revocation, I can say here, it could be indicated in so many ways of it. Deprivation of the rights to identity, no further documents you can have, all will be taken away. The loss of sense of security and sense of perennial threat, for sure, easily you could be threatened, which is all of us been through that. The barrier of the rights of the benefits for housing, inflation, and application for any new housing. If you have any application for housing that will be banned, will be cancelled. If you cannot have access to the healthcare, neither to any educational institution, and so on, or even for any type of the basic services that you previously used to get it as a citizen, all will be stopped. Next, please. So the sequence, comprehensive violations of the human rights. It begins with arbitrary arrest if they didn't inform you in advance. So even if they informed you through any social media, or you know it through an official news agency and so on, so you can expect that you're going to be under arrest at any moment. Under that arrest, torture will be applied, and then unfair trial, so easily, and forcible deportation. And this is not claims, there are clear indications of the cases that I am giving you today for the particular cases that we study it so closely, so we have it now, we are following it up. All happens in this sequence. Next, please. So let us go through the statistics that we are talking about. It started in 2002. You can see from your left-hand side. In 2002, 31 citizens, their nationality is being revoked, which I was part of it. And that was through the decision of the Ministry of Interior. Just 1 year, 2013, no revocation been there, because the authorities trying to make some legislations amendments to how to give it legal frame work towards, and giving them a justification that why they want to revoke the nationality. So it been through 3 different ways, either through ministerial orders, which happened with the first group by Minister of Interior, or through the a royal decree, which among all of it, we have 108 cases, their nationality has been revoked by royal decree. And the majority of it, which is the total till 2019, was almost 990 Bahrainis there lost their nationalship due to this process. So the majority was through the court. And that indicates that the court is not an independent judiciary. And meanwhile, the more amendment to the local legislation led to the increasing number of the citizens who their nationality is being revoked. So here, if you can see this pie chart, it started from 2013, 21, 2015, 2008, 2016, 90, 2017, 156, 2018, around 300, 298, 2019, 181. Then when we reached in April 2019, there was a decree by the king after huge international pressure and so much embarrassment to Bahraini authorities that this sequence is very dramatic way, where now we can see a lot of Bahrainis the nationality will be revoked just because they are opponent to the authorities, and there is no enough justification that why the authority should make amendment to their local legislations and give further power either to the government cabinets or to the individual ministers like Minister of Interior, or through royal decree, where the number was huge, increasing and sequence. That led that the king issue a decree in April 2019, reinstating 551 of the total of those who are nationalities being revoked. So yet still we have 434 citizens, still their nationality are revoked, which is still I am one of them. And that in that decree, the power is being shifted from the judiciary system to the executive body. More power is being given to the government, and through any type of the recommendation of Ministry of Interior, then the government have the power to revoke the nationality. So at the end, even they're in a state of 551, we can see it, and it was good indication. But unfortunately, the core problem is not being solved. Why? Because still the government at any moment, through any type of the recommendation of Minister Interior, still they can continue revoke nationality in addition to the any type of the real decree. And at the same time, we couldn't see any amendment towards the nationality law or anti-terrorism law that they can stop revocation of nationality toward certain clauses in these laws. So there was no amendment to this law to stop it. And at the same time, we can see yet 434 citizens still their nationality are revoked. Next slide, please. So is it really the claim they made that they are targeting the terrorist? Now we can see the statistics that we monitored. We can find among all those where the nationality is being revoked, former member of the parliament, 4, which is I am out of these 4. Religious scholars, 17. We have PhD holders, 4. The rest, the majority, are either political or social activists, 970. We have human rights activists, 4. We have media activists, 2. We have businessmen, 2. We have 1 lawyer, and we have 3 women. Although, yes, sorry. Although some of them, including some women, part of 551, but still there is 1 woman among them, and nationality has not been restored or reinstated. Next, please. Yeah, good to indicate this case of Ibrahim Karimi, Bahraini citizens. If we start from the beginning, in 14/4/2011, he been detained and tortured. He was my cellmate, part of my detention from May 2011 till August. So, and in March 2012, he been acquitted without charges. Imagine he been acquitted after almost a year. Then his nationality has been revoked. He was part of our group, first group. His nationality has been revoked without an indication. Imagine someone, even he was being jailed and he been acquitted, but he's suddenly, through the Ministry of Interior, his nationality has been revoked. He made an appeal. Why? Because after we start to contact many international communities about this case, they said better that you can resume the local process. So he gone and appealed the case. In 2014, in 29 April 2014, his appeal has been denied. And if we can see the denial appeal, it says that it is totally right of the state to revoke the nationality of any citizens without to be obliged to indicate or clarify any type of the reasons. Why? Because the government, most people, they are aware about the security of the states and they shouldn't justify it. In 28 October 2004, court ordered his deportation out of the country. Then in September 2015, he been arrested for tweeting. And in the 31st March 2016, since he is sentenced for 2 years and a fine of 2,000 Bahraini dinar, which around more than $5,000. Then finally, in 30th of October 2017, he been deported forcibly out of the country to Iraq. And now he's living in exile. Next example. Here we have the tragedy and very heartbreaking story of Muhammad Fathi. He was part of the list, the first list, 31. He passed away in exile. He passed away in Iran in exile after being deported from Bahrain in last month, 7th March 2021. He passed away from his family. His oldest children, Yusuf, he was in the prison, he'd been detained, After 8 years in prison, just day before yesterday, he been released. You can see his photo, how he's hanging his mother after he been released. So while his father being deported, and he couldn't see his father, and no communication, and he been free day before yesterday, but even he couldn't see his father even after his death. Next, please. So we in Salam DHR, we try to document all the case. So we designed a website called Ana Bahraini, I am Bahraini, indicating the details and statistics wise, and any articles, any reports, or any video will be issued the case we want to document it. So this is the site that we designed. As much as we can, we want to make it a reference site for any researcher or any authorities want to follow up the case. And here the case is details is there. This site is in Arabic and in English. So any part of it that you can utilize it through that link. So it is in both language. We can go back, please. Yeah, we can go back to the, yes. Next. Okay, as recommendation, I try to make it very, very short. It is so clear that the Bahraini authorities are really accused of acting against of the international law, international conventions, which is part of it. They already signed on them, agreed on it. So Bahraini government should rescind the revocation of nationality and compensate the victims. Part of the compensation is not just giving back their nationality, which is a must, but then all these types of the losses they got should be compensated. All local legislation to be amended in compatibility with the international convention banning revocation of nationality. And here I indicated that nationality law and anti-terrorist law. Demand of the Bahraini authorities to allow the visit of the related UN special rapporteurs to meet with the victims of the Serbian nationality, indicating here we can say that since 2006, Bahrain didn't allow any special rapporteurs to visit the country yet. A call for international community and NGOs to apply our international mechanism to oblige the Bahraini authorities to comply with the signed and ratified international treaties and declarations which confer to all Bahrainis the rights to nationality. Last one, and thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Jawad, for this very interesting lecture. And thank you also so much for sharing these personal and quite frankly, heartbreaking stories. While you were speaking, some questions have already come in, and allow me to immediately get started on those. So first of all, we had a question about the impact of the reinstatement of nationality to a significant percentage of the people who had their citizenship revoked. Has this made it harder to keep attention on the problem, both inside Bahrain and internationally? And was the reinstatement of nationality accompanied by any other form of restitution or compensation?
Unfortunately, yet such a royal decree, which started in April 2019, we couldn't follow up the cases to be sure that entire rights is being given back to them. For example, many of them still they are complaining that their passport is not being issued, the legal documentation is not being issued, or any type of the compensation is not being given on. For sure, yet they don't have their political rights for voting and so on. We are afraid it was just like a cosmetic type of the decision. We hope that everything will be in order in a way that the full citizenship right to be given them back, and for sure part of it will be any type of the compensation, which never yet happened. And by the way, still 434 is still waiting that such act to be implemented on them, because the same way and the same process were being happened And here I will insist that without modifying or amending the local legislations and preventing revocation of nationality by any decree or by any ministerial decision or by any court decision, we cannot guarantee that once again more citizens will not be part of the victims who nationality being revoked.
Thank you so much for that answer. To maybe stay with the question around compensation. So you mentioned like one of your recommendations is that people be compensated. How does compensation look in your perspective?
First of all, there should be adaptation of the accountability and at the same time a social justice in a way that if there's going to be, and which was a wrong act, a clear apology should be there from the state. And that apology will be in practical way to, as I said, amending these local legislations. And for sure, any type of the financial compensation or the basic rights that they lost it to be given back to them, and it should be a part of the priority of the state, not to be so much be delayed yet. For sure, all the legal documentation in fact to be processed, and some type of the legal apology to be given to all of them.
Thank you so much. That's very helpful, and great to hear some very concrete suggestions in that regard. So one other question has come in, and it asks about the situation that you described, which is, according to the person who asked this question, is one in which the state is clearly acting in an authoritarian way and using the law as a cloak, basically, to cover its arbitrary actions. And in such a context, does it make sense to pursue law reform, or do you need a different type of engagement to challenge the very legitimacy of the authorities and pursue wider political reform?
For sure, it's total clear of the grave abuse of the basic human rights, and we try to utilize all type of the international mechanism to question this wrong act, and then to question the authorities. And we used to deal with a lot of international human rights bodies, part of it the Human Rights Council, and other UN treaty bodies and other UN human rights bodies. And we hope that lately through the Magnitsky Acts, for example, we can bring up this case that it is clear and very type of the human rights violations occurred, and which is affected the individuals, and this is, I think it is even beyond the torture. So if the authorities are still continuing in this act, I think if those who are adopted this act, Magnitsky Act, if they are serious about it, they should question these authorities, these governments, and including Bahrain authorities. It is not just to stop it, to guarantee that they will not implement it once again, and to reinstate the nationality. And that question comes, in what way they dare to revoke the nationality and then the basic right of the citizen to be taken away.
Maybe in relation to that, do you feel that there is currently enough pressure from the international community on Bahrain on these issues, or is there anything more that international organizations or activists or NGOs working on this issue could do?
I think there is good work has been done by NGO, but internationally, through international community, particularly by UN bodies or the government, it is far away behind the true pressure that we are expecting. There is very mild pressure through certain statements sometimes, or certain criticism, but yet it is not being implemented or been adopted as a policies or trying to take a firm action against these authorities. We hope that should be done, it is not enough yet to make some recommendations or some very mild condemnation. I think EU or UK government and United States, they have the good influence over Bahrain. They can firmly order Bahrain to respect the human rights and stop such huge and grave human rights violations. Unfortunately, we just receive a certain type of the mild type of the condemnation, and sometimes just through the human rights councils. But I think through their relationship with Bahrain, which is mostly they are announcing they are proud that Bahrain is allies to them, especially United States and United Kingdom. So here the question comes, if Bahrain is a very close ally to you, how you are agreeing with such wrong policy to be implemented on the people. And if you say, especially United States nowadays, that they were adopting principles of the human rights, so why you don't force it on Bahrain to respect the human rights principles, starting with stopping the death penalty, and at the same time reinstate those whose nationality has been revoked.
Thank you so much. Let me turn a little bit to the situation and what's happening in Bahrain. So do you think that these recent efforts of the Crown Prince around jail releases would include reinstatement of revoked citizenship of those living abroad? In other words, this person is asking, should we be hopeful?
First of all, the entire package to deal with the issue of the human rights yet is not on the scene, is being adopted by the authorities yet. We hope that will be considered, that it is not individual cases. It is not such promises that we used to hear being shown in practice. Yes, initially there are some good indication, but these indications, it is like in individual cases, not related to the entire issue, that we can trust that there is adaptation of the human rights reform as a full package and entire human rights reforms, which could lead to the political reforms through a dialogue with the opposition in general. I believe strongly without adaptation of the political reforms, even if the authorities indicated and if they said or claim they have the human rights reforms, that won't be a permanent and it will not be definite without having a political reforms. So best way now, it is once again, it's a good opportunity with the current conditions, becoming crown prince as a prime minister and with the intention of a very good mood in the region in general, internationally, they can start and to be serious to adopt human rights reforms as the beginning toward the political reforms. Nowadays, we can hear that some detainees is being freed, and I hope that this movement will continue, that all prisoner of conscience to be relieved, all of them, and then some dialogue will be started towards having a really an agreeable terms toward the political reforms in Bahrain.
And when we're talking about the issue in Bahrain, is the issue of citizenship revocations and the citizenship revocations that have taken place, how does the general public in Bahrain feel about these? Is it a popular or an unpopular policy?
For sure, it is unpopular. There is a huge rejection toward this policy, which is being taken from one side, from the king, unfortunately, and from the government. And somehow, I think it's been passed because we don't have independent parliament. We don't have a parliament, an independent legislation body, and easily they pass it. They amended so many local legislation to impose it through the judiciary's court order and so on. So it is unpopular, and I'm sure that entire Bahrainis, they will welcome that day when such amendments will be revised and further individual freedom will be respected within the category of any new legislations, and the priority going to be to revise the nationality law and anti-terrorism law towards that to not included part of any revocation of nationality, and additional to that one, the penal code to be revised, and never ever revocation of nationality to be used as a political tools to or any type of the revenge at all.
Thanks so much. So we've been talking a lot about human rights as an issue, and I was wondering, how do you balance guaranteeing universal human rights and working within a state-centric system? So the ideal is to protect these rights and grant nationality to everyone, but there's a certain power of the executive body, and how does the international community apply pressure to avoid future revocations of citizenship? So could this be something that explains basically why the US and the EU, for instance, are not more involved?
I think time comes now, it is right time to upgrade our international mechanism toward how the issues of the human rights to be respected and to be enforced, either through any local legislations or how to monitor those governments who agreed with international conventions. So it is not enough that we can request them or just we can review their status toward of the implementing this convention through the UN committees. It should be somehow gradually enforced. And I think the suggestion here that if we want to evaluate any country's conditions before we start political diplomat relationship or any type of the economical support or any type of representation in the UN or Human Rights Council, Human Rights Council as a member and so on, or any international human rights conventions or treaties, then we have to see what is the human rights condition in these countries. In addition to that one, I think that's such abuses of revocation of nationality, it should be alerted so clearly, and that shouldn't be part of any type of the understandable the conditions or negotiation about. And I think if further power will be given to the Human Rights Council, further an order by the council to be given to the country to implement the recommendation, which we can hear it infrequently, and part of it, any UPR sessions which is going on, universal periodical review of the human rights conditions in this country shouldn't be part of any just recommendation. If after 2 sessions of UPR, for example, if the country didn't implement this type of the recommendation, then it should be like a decision should be forwarded to the United Nations to be taken certain further steps. Unfortunately, yet we can see that whatever decision is being taken by the council, it is part of the recommendations type. So time comes, the issue related to the human rights, grave human rights violation, not to be just recommendation, to be like an order with a certain time frame to modify the condition, otherwise certain sanction to be applied and certain type of the reducing the political relationship and so on. So it's required, I think, for the tangible action more than just recommendation or advices.
Yeah, that tangible action, I really like how you put that. And it's not just about recommendations. If we keep only making recommendations, that's all great, but it needs to translate indeed into tangible action. I completely agree. So let me turn to a comment that came in about the website that you showed us, the Ana Bahraini website. So the comment that came in was, great to see the work being done to document these cases. And the tagline, I am Bahraini, is very powerful and drives home that people's rights have been violated. And this person is wondering how you feel about the label stateless, and whether you feel that being called or calling yourself stateless is useful to your efforts to address the issue, and why or why not.
My advice was to the victims in general, and especially those who've been through a very hard time, either through torture or abuses, and their nationality has been revoked. I used to advise myself and themselves that we shouldn't be so weak that let those abusers to feel that they win. And part of it that we showed that we have enough ability to stand up once again and try to fight for our rights in all types of the international mechanism that we have to utilize it. And then if they want us to forget that we are citizens, we should remind them and international community that we are citizens. So they don't want us to they want us to ignore or try to be aware that I am Bahraini. So for that reason, we said, Ana Bahraini, I am Bahraini, to insist on that one. And meanwhile, we have to be more active, and as used to be, they want us to be idle. They want us to be that we are weak. We should be stronger. And that way that we should be engaged with all those networks, NGOs like ISCI and others who are really having good visions, trying to protect the victims, trying to show them the roadmap, and trying to mobilize whatever they can, international mechanism, convention in this regard. So we are not just individuals. We are not just small groups. We are not just victims. We could be a big successor and winners if we combine our effort with these international NGOs, and then we can have a very good network, not just impose it over authorities in Bahrain. We can impose it over all the governments internationally. And here that we're gonna continue this struggle, at least if we couldn't get our right and during our life, but at least we can be sure that the next generation will not be through this type of the painful of the human rights violations. And this is the way that we have to deal with it. And I am sure, because it is against the humanity, it is a very wrong act. At the end, I am sure, and I am so trustable that the decision will be so soon will be revised. We're gonna go back to Bahrain, and for sure the authorities will know that they done a very wrong act towards their citizens without any justification, and there is no justification. And I used to say, and I'm continuing to say, after 8 years after my revocation, my nationalism being revoked, still I am challenging the authorities. The act you done is very wrong. You have to revise it, and you should stop revoking nationality for any reason.
Thank you so much for these words. That's super inspiring, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. We only unfortunately have a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to offer you the opportunity to, as a Bahraini, stripped of your citizenship, now living in the UK, to yes, speak your message to the UK government, both on applying diplomatic pressure on Bahrain to reverse its citizenship policy, and also on the UK's own policy of citizenship stripping, which, as we've heard from previous seminars, also fails to follow due legal process.
For sure, we could understand, and we think that the interest of any country and expanding their relationship internationally is part of the priority. But these diplomatic relationships will not be in right direction, and it will not maintain the security and stability if there is unhuman acts, if there is human rights violation. So if you want to maintain the international security, if you want to maintain your interest, economical interest, military interest internationally, consider the human rights principle as part of your foreign policy and impose it in all your alliances. Ask Bahrain, order Bahrain to respect the human rights violation, and their priority should be retain the nationality of those who've been revoked. And at the same time, you should consider that part of the main parameters, how you are extend your diplomacy with such countries. And I hope that UK should revise their long, very long policy with Bahraini authorities and other authoritarian regimes.
Thank you so much. And that sounds like a perfect note to wrap up on. So unfortunately, we have to wrap up our discussions on citizenship stripping for now. I would like to thank Jawad for his lecture and for sharing his experiences here today as part of the global seminar series on citizenship stripping. I also would like to say that there will be a report coming out on the Bahrain context very soon. So stay tuned. You will hear about it both from ISI and from Salam DHR. I would also like to thank all of the participants for joining today, for asking some great questions. And finally, I'm of course very grateful to my colleagues at the Institute, but also the colleagues at Salam, who've made sure that everything ran smoothly today and that we were able to live broadcast and stream this, and not only in English, but also in an Arabic translation. So thank you so much for that. Next month, on the 17th of May, there will be another chance to discuss the issue of citizenship stripping, and this time from an international criminal law perspective with Coleman Kenny. More information and registration is already available on our dedicated website. And if you want to stay up to date on the global seminar series or about the work of the Institute, as well as about the report, for instance, please consider signing up to our monthly bulletin available through our website as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, have a wonderful day and hopefully until the next seminar.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.